And it looks like we are live. So hello, everyone. And warm welcome to another fabulous interview. As you know, I'm bringing you some fabulous women with their expertise, and all of these women are here to help you grow your business in a different ways. Today, I have got one of my favorite people with me. Janine is literally on a mission to help women let go of any unresolved trauma really quickly, often in as little as 12 weeks with her powerful tools. She's a certified psychotherapist, your clinical hypnotherapist, your certified life coach, and using a very particular method that utilizes our mind to allow women not needing to go through the years of therapy, but really resolve any traumatic issues that may be holding us back in business, holding us back in life in a really quick time. And she's a walking example of a powerful change these techniques can do. I will be asking you, Janine, if you don't mind, because your story is so phenomenal, and the way you overcame trauma and how you turned it around, what you create out of it is incredibly powerful. So for those of you who think you have got some unresolved trauma and it might be holding you back, we may be chatting about binge eating. That's Janine's expertise, or how to banish it. So we will be talking about these topics. If that's you, welcome, listen in. Janine, so did I give justice to your introduction first and foremost?
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me today. So that's right. I'm certified in psychotherapy, rapid transformational therapy, clinical hypnotherapy, and then life coaching. So I basically combine all of those things to help my clients get to their end goal as quickly as possible.
Yes, brilliant, brilliant. Now, Janine, you're not shy. You don't keep it secret that your story is phenomenal. Not only you had a very traumatic childhood, but was it when you were 18 you were kidnapped?
Yes.
You experienced attempted rape at a gunpoint. I mean,
yes,
that's something like from a freaking horror movie. How did they shape you, and how did they make you who you are today, and how does it impact your work?
Okay, so it was actually the same day that I got my driver's license.
Right.
So I grew up in South Africa, and we have quite a high criminality at the moment. And that night I had gone out with a friend to celebrate the fact that I had passed my driver's license. And we were then actually hijacked, kidnapped, and held at gunpoint. And one of the men attempted to rape me. And it was in that moment, you know, that everyone talks about that fight, flight, or freeze moment. Well,
Yes.
my moment was a fight moment, because something inside of me just snapped, and I just thought, this cannot be true. You know, I finally made it to 18 and getting to the point where I get to decide how I live my life, and then something like that happens. So at that point where he held a gun to my head and said, "Take your clothes off," I said to him, "You're going to have to shoot me first."
Gosh, if I may ask, and sorry to bring you back, what was the immediate after that? Because I often hear women, we kind of suppress it, like we want to ignore it, and then it hits us right back. Is that what you experience? And is it something you experience with your clients?
Well, in that moment, my only thought was, you know, I need to get out of this situation. And it was actually about a week later that I noticed that I was having PTSD symptoms. So what happened is I was sitting in my car, and a friend of mine who wasn't aware what had happened to me slapped against the window of my car with his hand. And I had that instant reaction, racing heart, like feeling that I'm going to jump out of my skin. And I decided, well, I'm going to have to go and seek help, because at the age of 18, I don't want to have this feeling that I can't live my life, or that I need to live in fear. So I went to a psychologist, and he said to me, back then this was quite a while ago, we did normal talk therapy and that. And he said to me that my reaction on that night, due to me having had a traumatic childhood, he believes saved my life.
Right.
Because instead of crying and begging for my life and doing whatever they wanted, I stopped that whole cycle of events by saying, you're going to have to shoot me first. And the guy didn't know how to react,
Right.
because that's not what he was expecting.
Yeah.
So I found that very interesting. And back then I was already interested in psychology, trauma, and all of that due to having had a traumatic childhood. But I then went into a sales career. And I later, after studying psychology and that, realized that when you're traumatized, especially as a child, you get this belief that you can only count on yourself. You can only rely on yourself. And what is a job in sales? You're relying on yourself, literally,
Yes.
for your existence, So I found that very interesting. But all of this led me to a point where I was experiencing a lot of success in my career. I live in Germany, so I had to learn German. I was working for a huge international company, getting to the point of doing TV interviews and that for them, but feeling that I wasn't fulfilled. The higher up I went, the more promotions I got, the more money I was earning, the unhappier I was getting. And now, obviously, and also being one of your clients, I've learned that when you go off your path of your purpose, you get unhappy because that's how you know, and that brings you back to your purpose. So I then had the opportunity to go and study and to decide what I want to do. And I knew immediately that I wanted to specialize in trauma and I wanted to work with women.
Yes, amazing. So you now have a group, you have programs, you have a group called Freedom from Trauma and PTSD. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So what I realized is there are a lot of online support groups, but either they open groups where you have no privacy, they mix groups of men and women. There are groups that are being run by people that have experienced trauma, but they have no training, so they're not clinicians. And there were groups that were really, really negative. It's either all negative or all fake fairy tales. And I wanted a space that was real, that was private, that was for women. And being a clinician, I can offer more than just moral support.
Yes.
When somebody is really going through a rough time, experiencing symptoms of either complex PTSD or going into the borderline personality symptoms, I'm there and I actually can provide a real safe container and guide them in a proper way onto the path that they need. Moral support and all of that and sharing experiences is wonderful. But for people that are really traumatized and that haven't had the opportunity to deal with their trauma, you need somebody with experience and actual training that can lead people through that experience.
Yes, and I can imagine this is not type of thing you open up anywhere about it. So it's incredible that you created that safe haven for it with real expertise, how to support them. That's incredible. So, okay, so let's talk about, if you don't mind, Janine, about the effects of unresolved trauma. As you know, I teach women to grow their businesses, and we kind of have a sense that anything unresolved in past, of course, it impacts the way we perceive present and we perceive future. Can you tell us a little bit more? What are the effects on it on manifesting your clients, growing your business?
Sure.
From your clinical perspective?
Yes. So there's a quote that I love by Carl Sagan, and it says, imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere. And it's such a powerful statement because depending on when you were traumatized, and especially if it happened in your childhood, it can actually affect your brain development. And the part of the brain that controls imagination, when that part doesn't get fully developed or becomes damaged, and we experience what we call dissociation, it means that you can't imagine fully. And when you can't imagine fully, it shows up in your business in content creation, people having problems creating content, people having problems creating courses, you know. It can lead to visibility issues. Because the thing is, what a lot of people don't understand, I often have the impression they don't understand trauma. They think that it's something like a horrible car accident, or you needed to be raped or abused in that. But trauma is also what didn't happen to you. So if you grew up with parents that weren't able to show you unconditional love or emotional attachment, that affects how you show up in your parenting, your career, your personal relationships, how you interact with your clients. It literally affects every single part of your life, and people don't realize that. So it's not just about having experienced this one dramatic, shocking event. It's also what you didn't experience.
Wow, that's powerful. And so when you talk about imagination, a part of the brain that affects that imagination, of course, you know, we know that it can be rebuilt, right? It can be reopened. The way I translate it into my way of, would it be correct to say that, as I teach, that, you know, the higher mind is constantly communicating to our physical mind. So essentially the trauma damages that connection, or we cannot, if there is something unresolved, we cannot receive that fully?
Yes, so you can't connect to it fully.
Yeah.
So what we do is I use a method called rapid transformational therapy, which uses regression hypnosis. So what happens is we look for the triggering event. So for instance, I noticed that a lot of my clients were coming to me with the symptom of binge eating. And that's a secondary symptom of unresolved trauma. So what I noticed in my practice is that we then find that triggering event, that one thing that started it off, whether it's being emotionally abused by an alcoholic father as a child, or being bullied at school, or being abused in some form. We first recognize the triggering event, and then we look for that pattern in the client's life that basically reinforces this belief that you're not good enough, you're damaged, you'll never experience love, however that shows up, because it shows up differently for everybody. And then this pattern reinforces that belief and basically imprints it. And that then leads to the block and negative beliefs that people have. So a lot of people think that it's the event that causes trauma. It's not. People that have experienced even horrible events like Hurricane Katrina or car accidents or rapes, bones, bruises, cuts, all of your body can heal, but it is the emotions that our minds connect to that event that keep us captive.
Yeah.
It is the shame, the guilt, the fear, the desperation. That is what keeps people captive. So what I do is I go in and neutralize the events that the mind has attached to that event, and then people can move forward.
Yes. Oh, that gives me goosebumps, you know. So I'm quite open about it, that I used to have a eating disorder, bulimia and binge eating, etc. And I went through the process of forgiveness, because forgiveness is one of those things, it's for us, isn't it? Not for the person who caused the trauma. And tell us a little bit here, because I remember a distinctive moment in my journey when I came to conclusion. This is when literally I could let go of binge eating like that, but it couldn't be forced. It came as part of the process. Simply said, I fully accept myself, and I trust myself, trust my body. I fully accept myself, Tell me, how important is that in doing this, you know, in helping women to let go of trauma, binge eating, etc., etc.
That's a very valid point. And when I went to go study with Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, he's one of the leading psychiatrists in the world of trauma. He actually has a book that I would recommend to anybody to read. And it says, The Body Keeps the Score. That's the name of the book. And he talks about how we have this disconnect from our bodies, how our bodies are basically reacting, and we either are hypervigilant, or we have the complete opposite reaction where it's like, I call it the nobody's home syndrome, where things are going on and people are just not feeling anything. They are so numb. But the problem with that is people do that. They shut down to protect themselves. But then you don't feel pain and sadness and all of that. But you also don't feel love, joy, peace, satisfaction. And what kind of life is that?
Yeah, this is a big one. I had a chat with one woman entrepreneur I deeply admired. You know, she's advisor to the government, etc., real influencer. And we had a chat about how we women entrepreneurs are forced to be, let's be resilient. You know, it doesn't matter what happened, what kind of trauma, experiences, threat happens. We've got to just put it aside, put it in the boxes and move on, be resilient. That's the way. And that's not the way.
No.
That's not the way.
What I actually find, and very often even in my group, people will say, well, my trauma is not that bad. I wasn't raped. I just had an alcoholic parent or a drug addict mother. Yeah. Even in our trauma is not good enough.
Yes.
That is so much of an enoughness issue that even our trauma is not good enough. Even then we are in this competition and people saying, well, I don't deserve help, or mine's not that bad, or even there, they can't just accept that they deserve to be helped.
Yeah, for me, it was incredibly powerful. I remember this moment that to actually admit, you know what, it was very unfair and it wasn't right. Because, you know, somehow you almost like you take responsibility for that as, yeah, you know, and I can be strong and I don't want to be victim here. And, you know, so it can be actually, it doesn't, our, you know, the part of us that want to be strong and resilient doesn't like it, you know, but admitting that actually this really wasn't fair and it was wrong and it shouldn't have happened to me. Not that I couldn't turn it around, but you know, it wasn't right and it was wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. So in a way, it's a little bit, you could say it's paradoxical, because we teach always accept 100% responsibility, right? I personally believe that admitting that we were a victim is important part of the healing process. It must be temporary, but admitting that this happened to me, yes, I'm a victim. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I personally don't like the word victim.
Got it?
I prefer survivor, because, and especially the kind of clients that I attract, they are the kind of people that say, yes, that should happen to me.
Yes.
But I'm not a victim.
Yes.
Because the victim mentality keeps you stuck.
Very true. Yes, and what I meant is, you know, this is a trauma. I'm not gonna downplay it, as you just said, because I would. But you know, one of the earthquakes, the biggest earthquakes in my life, was when I rapidly lost my first business to whatever cyberbullying or whatever ugliness was behind it. And the waking up call, it was just atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And I had such a strong, I had anger, I had, you know, self, you know, how could I get myself manipulated that much? Fear, you know, is it coming, kill my children, you know, all of that. And it lasted for weeks. And what really helped me to move is actually, again, not forever, but just what helped me move forward from it is I happened to be in a way of arseholeness. It happened to me, as in almost, you know, I will not a victim, but it happened to me. It was wrong, rather than, oh, it was all my responsibility. You know what I mean?
Well, I always say you can't change what you don't accept.
That's it.
Because if you're in denial,
that's it.
How can you receive help? If you say that never happened to me, then I can't help you either.
That's right. Yes.
You know when you're ready to go on your journey, because it is a journey.
Yes.
When you are willing to admit to yourself,
yes,
that happened to me, but it's okay. This doesn't have to be my entire story. I always say my mission is to get women to take that one page of their story and make it just one page, not the entire story.
Powerful, powerful.
That they can clean that slate and start over and be who they were always meant to be, reach their full potential, and realize that that is not their identity. It's one tiny piece of the puzzle that it makes up who they are.
Yes, beautiful. So can you tell us a little bit about, you're going to run at the end of January, Banish binge eating program. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So what I noticed in my practice is that at least 90% of the women that were contacting me, it was either for binge eating, or binge eating was one of the symptoms. Often it's fatigue, procrastination, things like that. So I decided to address binge eating, because binge eating is one of the most common eating disorders. A lot of people don't even recognize it, that it's an eating disorder. So it's an 8-week program, and it will you will have your own private one-to-one therapy session with me, and then have online modules. So it's a combination. You have that one-to-one with me for the therapy part, because I personally believe that trauma cannot be dealt with online.
Of course.
Not the therapy part. And I don't think anything will ever change my mind about that,
Yes.
having had my own experiences and what I've seen in my own practice. So the therapy parts are one-to-one, but the rest of it, the mindset work, that will all be online, and there'll be then group coaching calls. So it's going to be very small, very intimate.
Yes.
And in that 8-week period, the people or my clients will then have 2 one-on-one therapy sessions, where they then also get their bespoke recordings that they will listen to build those new neural pathways that we need. And the rest will then be online modules, so they can work at their own pace. And then the live parts, which is the live coaching, the live question and answering. So there's a lot of support in it. And within those 8 weeks, I'm going to deal with enoughness issues. If actual trauma comes up, we're going to deal with that. And then we're going to be doing a lot of mindset work, getting people onto that path where they feel that they are in control of their emotions, their eating habits, and the rest of their life, you know, whether they're an entrepreneur or not.
Gosh, this gave me goosebumps. It's a life-transforming experience. You know, sometimes it happens. Of course, I don't coach around that, or not specializing in that by any means, but I do some deep energetic work as part of the business growth, believe it or not, because it's important, right?
Yes.
And on several occasions, I had women reporting, you know, they stopped alcoholism, or the binge eating. The recent one, and it was quite interesting, and I would like to see your viewpoint and how you deal with this in your 8-week program, said that, you know, she had a shift, you know, whatever shift, and without wanting whatever, she stopped binge eating, like literally it left her, but it was almost like a part of her personality, like a best kind of friend left. And she felt kind of lost. Where am I now? What's happening there from clinical perspective?
So what happens, and what is part of the therapy process that we do, is that part of you is either trying to protect or to punish you. So often, for example, people that have survived incest or rape, or especially sexual abuse, a lot of times they will put on extra body weight as a layer of protection, to be unattractive, to not get attention, things like that.
Yeah.
And that in that form, it's protection, to protect them from getting into a situation where they are being lusted after, basically. But especially in binge eating and then in bulimia, it's more of a punishment function.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, and what I always say is that binge eating is you're trying to self-soothe and fill a need from your past in the present moment.
Uh-huh.
Because you get triggered by that feeling of not being enough, or somebody reminding you that in either your trauma or not feeling good enough. And in that moment, you have to self-soothe and distract yourself. So some people do it with alcohol, some people do it with sex, drugs, you name it, there is a way to do it. But with food, it becomes a noticeable thing, either in people being overweight or getting to the point where they are hurting themselves, because binging and purging, that purging, of course, is very bad for your health.
Incredible. Incredible. Oof, powerful. We have got some lovely comments. Thank you so much, ladies, for commenting. Now, of course, you know, this is quite intimate matter, isn't it? So perhaps instead of asking, you know, if you have any questions, yeah, sure, you can ask. But Janine, is it okay to connect with you privately?
Sure. I will put a link in the comments where people can hop on a free connection call with me, because especially if people have been abused or that, they might not feel that they want to talk about that on such a public forum. And I understand that, because very often I'm the first person that people tell their story to.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I will create that container for them and give a link where they can reach out to me.
Please, if you could do so on the live stream, that would be most incredible. Lastly, please share with us how to connect with you, please.
If you're interested in the binge eating program, I will put a link in there where you can sign up on the waiting list, and you will then get all the notifications and the details, because we'll go through the whole holidays, let everybody relax and have their holiday season, and then in the new year we'll start with that. I have my group, Freedom from Trauma and PTSD. I do look at the people that try to join, because obviously it's a safe space, and I'm very, very protective of that space. So I do scan everybody that wants to enter in there. And then, of course, my Facebook business page, they can reach out to me there as well.
Incredible. Janine, last question. If you could sum up your overall mission in life, what would that be?
I want a society where women can come forward and speak about their experiences without fear of being blamed and shamed, because that's often what we see in society. I mean, you see it in Hollywood all the time, you know, people, and not even just celebrities, even normal people, where the victims or the survivors actually have more of a hard time after they acknowledge what happened to them. And I want women to know that they're not alone, that they can come forward and they can get the help that they deserve.
Janine, thank you. You're incredible. You know how much I love you. So ladies, whoever would benefit from Janine's expert help, certified psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, and a real expert in these issues, connect with her. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And for now, I wish you all wonderful evening. And perhaps I'm going to say it preliminarily, but Merry Christmas. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Let us know some of your takeaways as always. Bye.